Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Maryellen, the one and only, The Lunch Bunch, Chapter 8. Mrs. Humphrey covered the name of another country on the map. She had not even asked for the name before almost every hand in the room went up. "That's East Germany," Davy called out. "Everybody knows that because the Germans were our enemies in World War II. Japan and Italy were against us too," added Karen Stolman with a sideways glance at the new girl. Maryellen hoped Angela did not understand enough English to be offended. Karen Stolman went on. "My uncle fought in Italy. He was hero, but the Italians..." "Yes, well, the war ended in 1945, nearly 10 years ago," Mrs. Humphrey interrupted briskly. "The Germans, Italian, and Japanese are not our enemies anymore. Let's move along now. Who can tell me the name of the capital of East Germany?" This time only Maryellen's hand went up. Yes," said Mrs. Humphrey, who seemed to have decided not to call Maryellen by any name at all, much to the relief of the class. "The capital of East Germany is Berlin," said Maryellen. She knew all about Berlin because Joan had written a report about it last year, and Maryellen had drawn maps for her since she was good at sketching. After the war, Germany was divided up. The Russians have one part, and now their part is behind the Iron Curtain. "The Russians have a curtain made of iron?" asked Wayne, sounding skeptical. "It isn't real," said Maryellen, "but the Russians won't let people come and go freely, and they keep things secret on their side. It's as if they closed a curtain. America doesn't like the way the Russians are treating people, so now the Russians are sort of our enemies and we're in a Cold War with them." "What's a Cold War?" Patty Zender asked. "It means that each side tries to have more bombs than the other, even though they don't use them," said Maryellen. "We're not fighting battles against the Russians, but we don't trust them and we're not friendly with them either." Mrs. Humphrey smiled at Maryellen. "Good explanation," she said. "Splendid." Maryellen beamed. Maybe Mrs. Humphrey would forgive her for the napkin cartoon and like her again. She was sorry when geography was over. Mrs. Humphrey passed out handwriting workbooks. Last year, in 3rd grade, all her classmates had been excited about learning to write in script instead of printing. But Maryellen had discovered that because she was left-handed, her letters seemed to lean in the wrong direction, tilting and wobbling so badly that no one could read them. Finally, Maryellen had solved the problem by inventing a fake script for herself, which she made by swooshing printed letters together. She tried to make her loopy letters look nice and neat, but no matter how careful she was, she smudged the words she had written when her left hand passed over them. Mrs. Humphrey came by and looked at Maryellen's work over her shoulder. She didn't say anything, but Maryellen knew that her work page looked messy. When it was time to go to lunch, Mrs. Humphrey announced, "Boys and girls, I sometimes invite students to join to call my lunch bunch and meet me here in the classroom after lunch instead of going for recess. Today I'm inviting Angela, Davy, and Mrs. Humphrey paused to make sure she got the name right, and then said, "Maryellen to join me." Karen King rolled her eyes at Maryellen. Mrs. Humphrey had made her announcement in a cheery tone of voice, as if joining the lunch bunch was a privilege. But everyone knew perfectly well that it wasn't. "It wasn't much of a bunch anyway," Karen Stolman said, while the girls ate their sandwiches in the cafeteria. "It's just you, the new Italian girl, who doesn't speak any English, and Davy, who needs help with multiplication." "Gosh, Ellie," said Karen King, "do you think Mrs. Humphrey is punishing you because of the cartoon?" "No," sighed Maryellen. "I think I'm in the lunch bunch because Mrs. Humphrey doesn't like my script handwriting." Maryellen's lunch bunch hunch turned out to be right. When she went back to the classroom, David didn't even look up from his bathroom math book. Mrs. Humphrey said, "Now, Maryellen, let's talk about your handwriting. I see you're not really writing in cursive. You're just running your printed letters together. Is that what your teacher showed you how to do in 3rd grade?" "No," admitted Maryellen. "I kind of invented my handwriting all by myself." "I see," said Mrs. Humphrey. "Well, you're in 4th grade now, and I think your script should look like everyone else's. With practice, I'm sure that your script can look like beautiful letter on the placards there above the blackboard. Will you try? Yes, promised Maryellen earnestly. Good, said Mrs. Humphrey. I thought of a way you can practice your handwriting and help Angela learn English at the same time. Now Mrs. Humphrey handed Maryellen a composition book. Now we both know that you're quite good at simple line drawings, like cartoons, don't we? Said Mrs. Humphrey. Maryellen looked up sharply. Was Mrs. Humphrey still mad about the cartoon? But Mrs. Humphrey had a twinkle in her eye. So I was thinking you could draw objects and write names in English for Angela. Use your best handwriting because you will make a dictionary for Angela. You can begin with objects in the classroom. Yes, ma'am, said Maryellen, feeling hopeful that she was forgiven. Mrs. Humphrey's plan sounded sort of fun. Well, except for the handwriting part. For the rest of the week, the lunch bunch met every day after lunch in the classroom. Davy did not speak to Maryellen. She did not speak to him. It made her sad because by now she had fully admitted to herself that Davy was right. She had gotten herself in trouble by drawing the cartoon. She also admitted to herself she had gotten mad at Davy because she resented how he seemed to prefer being with Wayne. But even when he wasn't working on his multiplication tables with Mrs. Humphrey, Davy ignored her. It was fun to work with Angela, though. The two girls went around the classroom, and Angela would point to an object such as a window. Window, Maryellen would say in English. Window, Angela would repeat. Then Maryellen would sketch the window in the composition book and label it in painstaking cursive, and Angela would read the name out loud. Pretty soon, Angela began teaching the names of the objects in Italian. Maryellen loved the Italian words because they sounded so pretty, and they were fun to pronounce because they were tickly and delicious in her mouth. Window was fiestra, desk was banco, and book was libro. She felt almost as if she was singing when she pronounced the Italian words that Angela taught her. Mrs. Humphrey let Maryellen and Angela put down the maps, and they taught each other the names of the 7 continents, which were easy, and then the names of the big countries like India and China, and the names of the tricky little countries that made up Europe. Maryellen could never stump Angela at any of the European countries. Even when she sketched her outlines in the composition book, Angela could name them as quick as a wink in both English and Italian. When the girls ran out of objects in the classroom to name, Maryellen drew a person waving and saying hi. Then she waved to Angela and said, Hi! Hi, repeated Angela. In Italian, ciao. Ciao, repeated Maryellen. Thanks. In Italian, grazie, said Angela. She pointed to herself and then to Maryellen. In Italian, amici. In English, I think friends? Oh yes, friends, said Maryellen. Good, said Angela, smiling her sunshiny smile. After that, Maryellen taught Angela how to count to 100 in English, and Angela taught her how to count to cento in Italian. It was all unexpectedly fun. The only slightly worrisome thing was that her handwriting was not really improving. Angela never complained, but Maryellen could see that Angela had a hard time repeating her cursive unless she went back to her old looped and linked style. One day at lunchtime, Angela gave Maryellen a gift. It was a pretty plastic headband. Thanks, Angela, said Maryellen. It's pretty. Come, said Angela. She led Maryellen to the mirror by the classroom sink and showed her how to use the headband to push her bangs back from her forehead and sort of hide them from under the headband. Oh, said Maryellen, delighted. Grazie, Angela. Grazie very much. Impulsively, she gave Angela a hug. You're the first person who actually come up with a helpful solution to the problem of my bangs. Angela smiled and hugged Maryellen back. Another day, Karen King was absent, and Karen Stolman had ballet, so Maryellen walked her bike home with Angela, who lived near the school. Come in? Angela asked. Maryellen felt a little shy at first, but the minute they walked through the door, Angela's dog trotted up to welcome them and wagged his tail hello. Oh, Maryellen exclaimed, kneeling to pet the dog. What's his name? Amerigo, said Angela. Oh, he's cute, said Maryellen. My dog's name is Scooter. Hi, Amerigo. Ciao. Angela's mother and father were at work, but her grandmother, whom Angela introduced as Nana, was in the kitchen making meatballs. Maryellen had never seen anyone make meatballs before. At her house, spaghetti and meatballs came straight out of the Chef Boyardee can. After the girls washed their hands, Nana let them make meatballs too. "This is fun," said Maryellen, rolling the meat in her palms. Nana let Angela give a meatball to Amerigo, and he left up to the air to take from her hand. Maryellen clapped and cheered. "I'd love to teach Scooter that," she said. Maryellen was sorry that it was time to go. As she was leaving, Nana was saying something in rapid Italian. Angela laughed and translated it. "Nana says next time stay for dinner, have meatballs. But no jumping up for meatballs like Amerigo." "Grazie, Nana," said Maryellen. She grinned and hopped a little hop to show Nana that she understood. At the end of the week, on Friday, Maryellen wore her poodle skirt to school again. Her bangs weren't bothering her anymore, thanks to a headband from Angela. And she did love her skirt, even if she was not the only girl who had one. Later that day, as she and the Karens who were leaving school to walk home, Karen Stolman said, "Next time you're going to wear your poodle skirt, call me first and I'll wear mine, so we can be twins." Maryellen winced an invisible wince, but she said, we can call Patty too, and we can be the McDougal sisters on the playground again. Except you're never on the playground anymore, said Karen King. "Not after lunch anyway. How long are you going to be in that lunch bunch?" "All year?" "I don't know," said Maryellen. "I don't mind it really. It's sort of fun. Like today, Angela pointed to my skirt and taught me how to say Barboncino Frenchie, which is French poodle in Italian. Don't you love that? Angela loves dogs. She has one. Not a poodle, but a spaniel named Amerigo, and he's adorable." Angela says, "Wait." Karen Stolman interrupted sharply. "You've met Angela's dog?" "Yes," said Maryellen, "when I went to her house." "You went to her house?" asked Karen King. "Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that Angela told me in Italian dogs go arf, arf instead of woof, woof like they do in Italian. Isn't that funny?" "Angela this and Angela that," said Karen Stolman. Her voice sounded a little brittle. "You've met her dog and you've been to her house. You're getting awfully chummy with her." "Well, she's nice," said Maryellen. "You'd like her too if you got to know her." The two Karens exchanged a look. "I don't think so," said Karen King. "What do you mean?" asked Maryellen. "She's so different," said Karen Stolman. "She has these long braids and pierced ears. She stands out like a sore thumb." "I think the way she's different makes her interesting," said Maryellen. "And what's wrong with standing out anyway?" And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.